Attention gamers. The path toward the deadliest drug lord in history involves wheeling and dealing while evading the law more than a young Donnie J evades taxes, and while my initial plan was to replace my own addiction for League of Legends by creating substance addictions in my customers, I quickly learned the criminal life can be straight cancer, as first the po-po found my pervy uncle's hard drive, then I had to deal with some arsonist being a grade A douchebag to me as I was trying to launch my business. Sure, I was able to get back on my feet like a true Salamanca, but the second I was in a rhythm I got cordially invited to be bunkmates with P. Diddy. With a criminal record and just a few piss pots in my motel, I decided to turn a new page. I would be a law-abiding citizen. I'd get a new haircut to look more employable, as I chose the receding hairline, the perfect way to show that I'm ready for corporate politics to make me miserable. Sure, I had buyers offering big bucks, but I was past that as I could find other ways to make money. It would be a humble income, but I figured it was better than nothing and others would respect the honest grind.
A few moments later.
You're broke!
Excuse me, ese?
You're fucking poor!
And who is this budget Andrew Tate car color picking bitch to talk down to me like that? Screw being an underpaid agent of the system. I have opportunities, I have clients, I was meant for the crime life. I had the perfect customer to get me going. I've seen this kid at work. You just know this Rhefasaurus Rex be fiending 24/7, and sure enough he already had an order, so it was on me to fix my supply issue. You see, the local weed seed dealer told me dead drop at Gas Mart, and guess who the fuck wasn't here?
Watch it, you bald turd.
Anyways, my supplier gave directions worse than a passenger princess, but I have to figure this shit out if I'm ever going to afford sexy gas in this economy. Once I finally got the seeds, I got to work, but having been arrested once, I was more nervous than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, as all I could hear was footsteps. Turns out it was some crackhead pacing in front of the building, so I politely asked her to shut the fuck up, and things escalated more than a staircase that moved. Anyways, Kush addict Kyle placed a big order. I gouged that little shit on the price, and with that, we were in business. The only thing is he was too high to remember he placed the damn order.
Oh, dude.
That said, with a steady supply, I got a call from my registered sex offender of an uncle who was like Motel Mo problems, and I would need to expand my customer base if I wanted to stop disappointing him. I used his list to track down potential customers. The first one was busy, but when I saw she was heaving that Habana, I decided to give up a free sample to reel her in. Her boss acted like I was doing him a favor, so I can only assume she was a trash employee, and that's just what you get from trying to climb the corporate ladder, I guess. But believe it or not, this wasn't my worst attempt at getting new customers.
Want some weed, ese?
But after finding someone who looks like he doesn't need to cheat in online chess streamer tournaments, it was time to pedal this pot and pedal it hard. I tried to use my connections to find a new place to stay, but this boosted animal and Steve Aoki weren't willing to budge, so I settled on the apartment above Mrs. Ming's Chinese restaurant, and with the privacy, the smell of mushu pork grease, and the extra space, this place was about to be perfect. I had supply figured out, but I needed more distribution, so I called up my pedophile Nelson for some advice.
Time to think about recruiting a dealer. There's a guy, Benji Coleman.
Turns out when I was still renting out this shithole, my next door neighbor was Benji, and one look at his paranoid unenthused ass, I knew he would be perfect. I gave him a dozen of my staple backyard boogie and assigned him to some of my biggest fiends. His main customer would be Mr. Can't Get Enough Kyle, that fucking bottomless pit of pot, but also a few other staples like Asian Peter, and then I waited to see this server of the sticky icky get down to business. That said, his first performance review wasn't looking too hot when freaking Peter walked right by his room, just reeking of the desire to have some dank spank him right in the lung holes.
I'm not paying you to jerk off, essay.
I didn't want to seem like I was micromanaging, but I had to know if he would be the right bottom bitch for Backyard Boogie LLC. Anyways, after Benji took his post-Chipotle shit for close to an hour, he finally left the house on the prowl. I followed him to see who the first victim would be, and to absolutely no one's surprise, it was Kyle, that reefer vacuum degenerate. But I was thrilled to see the deal was a success, and Kyle left just as satisfied with the product as always. This opened up new freedoms for me, as any time one of my regular stogie simps would hit me up, I could now pawn them off on my dank dope dealer and they would piss off, opting to pay me through my pyramid scheme instead, as I could focus on innovating with my brand of inebriators. I bought a new piece of decor from Dr. Phil, set that shit up in my own personal Thunderbluff before grabbing some perkies from the nearby Tesla dealership, and then I went full-blown chemistry. I Walter Whited this bitch so hard that I started inventing new brands of weed, more lace than a pair of Timberland boots, and my first creation would be known as Aspen's Death. Aspen was the name of the guy who fucked with my RV, and this was gonna be the product to kill that sad son of a bitch, because as you can see, my OG Kush is 0% addictive, well, unless you are Kyle. But this new boogie is close to 70% addictive, which means my business model just added a hell of a lot of repeat customers. It's so potent when I'm in the kitchen cooking and I have the po-po searching for that dank like bloodhounds. But to put it in perspective, I've been trying to get my landlord Mrs. Ming hooked on my shit for ages, but every time she's just like,
I don't think so. I give this to my toddler back in China and he say this pussy shit too.
But the first day I went to that wonton maker with this heavy hitting shit and the results were different. Now I can't keep that hoe out of my DM, she's just begging for the D. As in dank you perverts, but this changed things for me. Her sister Kim started stealing her shit and I would use Kim as a marketing tool. You see, I would let her bug the fuck out on my strongest shit right in front of potential customers. You know, the perfect way to show them what they are missing out on, and once I line them up you already know what they would say. But then let me cook a bit more. You see, if I throw Aspen's Death in the boogie blender with even more perkies and I let that thing earn its rent, you know what I get? Just more Aspen Death. That was a fail, but they said if Edison didn't fail 1,000 times there wouldn't be a light bulb, so you know what I did? And thus, OG Puke was born. Worn in the lab with a perfect addiction score of 100%, I just knew this shit would eliminate any demand problems for the rest of my life. I decided to test it on Schedule 1 Timo, and the shit hit so hard it literally turned him biracial. So with a dealer on the streets and me bringing in new addicted customers regularly, I was one deal away from 10 G's in earnings, or as a Graham Stephan video once told me would be the changing point in my life. So I just waited completely out of sight to watch the deal that would be the tipping point go down, and I wouldn't have wanted it to be anyone else but Kyle. Uncle Nuncle told me it was time to start pissing in the big pond by trying to get in with the crime gang who controls the warehouse, but it would be hard to get accepted, so I knew I had to upgrade my appearance to, look the part of an up-and-coming drug lord, and with that I was ready.
The warehouse is what you need. Weapons, specialized equipment, workers for hire, all the good stuff. Just keep in mind, they'll only let you in once you've built a solid rep for yourself. These guys are hardcore criminals.